welcome and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. So Prime kindly asked us to bring a global student perspective on the future of education and how to mobilize towards the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So at the Dean's multi-dialogue session at the World Economic Forum this year, I opened the presentation of the positive impact rating with one observation. The world is changing really fast. And I was asking, what about the business schools? Not so much despite the climate movement. And since then, the COVID has struck all of us. Higher education institutions have had to reinvent themselves. And in the good after COVID movement, the youth is now raising many questions. Some of them are, what society and economy do we want to live in? Do we, the youth, have the courage needed to instill a profound transformation? What kind of leadership do we need in this time of global opportunity and challenge? And what does it look like to choose not the easy path? Another question is how to create a more inclusive society and economy. So this crisis highlights inequalities in our society. And so how can we engage our generation to reflect on basic rights for everyone, to get rid of systemic racism, discriminations, and inequality? It really should be prevented by fully integrating this topic of equity and diversity at the core of higher education activities. So basically the broader question here is, how can this crisis enable us to rethink our current system, to make our generation more critical thinkers who can develop an economic system that respects the ecosystem limits and serves society. So we students really need to acquire the adequate basic set of competences, of skills, of attitude, of mindset, with a very good understanding of the full spectrum of the SDGs and of the complexity of the world we're living in, to really lead this transformation in this decade of action. So all this highlights really the key role and the influence and the responsibility of higher education in empowering students to bring the systemic change needed for a more sustainable world. So business schools here also need to go through a system change and take as the main focus the students. It's not comfortable, but that's normal. We should all learn to navigate through challenging and uncomfortable waters, since it's really what is ahead of us now. At the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit, we saw that companies are now trying to contribute to building an inclusive and regenerative economy. But to do so, we need bold, creative, resilient, solution-oriented leaders with disruptive mindset, able to manage multi-stakeholder environments. So this crisis is the wake-up call that both the world and education needed. And we're entering this decade of action with this pandemic. Our generation really see that the impossible is possible. So let's embrace this as an opportunity. So my name is Clementine. I'm the president of Oikos International. It's a worldwide student-led organization on embedding sustainability into economics and management education. We work and collaborate with all stakeholders in the field of higher education, and I'm French, currently based in the German part of Switzerland. And today it's my great pleasure to be the moderator of this session for the next 40 minutes. So feel free to share comments and ask questions in the chat. Your perspective on the topic we're discussing today is really, really valuable to us. And in this session, we'll get also the perspective of a diverse panel composed of Daniel, Costa, Shivani, Ghai, and Minyoung. Thank you so much to the three of you to be here today. And I will let you present yourselves. So we'll start with Shivani. Can you say a few words about you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Shivani Ghai, and I currently serve as the Director of Research and Analytics at the Center for Analytics and Behavioral Change. I'm also an MBA candidate at the Graduate School of Business at the University of Cape Town. So originally born in India, I've had the chance to live and work in over 9 countries and travel to over 30 others. I previously worked in the oil and gas industry as a consultant, and I decided to consciously change tracks to pursue a career in my values, which are inclusion, sustainability, and empowerment. That is exactly what led me on my MBA journey. And during my MBA, I was introduced to a whole new world of responsible leadership and management. Also, during this time, I had the honor of serving as class president and the positive impact ratings point of contact for my business school. More recently, we had the honor of being the first African business school to bring home the prestigious John Molson International Case Competition Trophy. And I was also shortlisted as AMBA's top 6 MBA students globally for the year 2020. Today, personally, I get to combine my skills and my values and passions in the development sector. And I look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you, Clementine.
Thank you so much. Do you want to go next, please, Minyoung?
Yeah, sure. So greetings, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. In South Korea, it's currently midnight, and I'm full of energy, and I'm excited for the panel. My name is Minyoung Park. I'm a senior at Korea University, Division of International Studies and French Language and Literature. I'm also working as an intern at the UN Global Compact Network Korea, where I research on CSR and business and gender equality, mainly in the context of South Korea. So I have a wide range of interests, and I'm a very active individual. I try to work in different sectors, ranging from education development, ODA projects, human rights, specifically business and human rights, and emerging digital technology and human rights. And I just try to build a strong base for me to play in a global society. I have taken part as the president of Global Intelligence, a nonprofit organization for education equality, intern at a journal enterprise, Human Asia NGO, UNHRC Advisory Committee, and just tried to have unique experiences to help me grow insight and develop my passion in the field of sustainability and help me engage more. And I think this panel will also really help me build a solid base for my future experiences. Before I end, I just want to thank the Prime Secretariats for giving me the opportunity to share my insights. I believe Prime has made a very wise choice of including panelists from different backgrounds, but most importantly, from different stages of studies. Youth engagement is one of the most primary driving forces needed in the decade of action, and our voices and our requests need to be heard more. So I really appreciate the effort.
Thank you. Couldn't agree more, Minyoung. And Daniel, do you want to present yourself as well?
Yes, for sure. Hello, everyone. Before anything else, I would like to thank both Oikos and Prime for the opportunity to take part in this panel, and also my fellow panelists for the participation. My name is Daniel Costa, and I'm from Brazil. Regarding my academic background, I have a bachelor's degree in international relations by the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and I am finishing a professional degree in economics and sustainability management in the same institution. Currently, I'm working on a final paper about the relationship between innovation and sustainability. I will be starting in September this year, Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree, so keep being a student. And it's called Global Markets, Local Creativities, and it focuses at the sustainability aspects of globalization processes. The program is coordinated by the University of Glasgow in Scotland. At the same time, work-wise, I am currently a program officer at a European Commission initiative called EURAXESS, which fosters the international mobility of researchers between Europe and the rest of the world. I am also a volunteer at FDSN Youth, which is the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth Initiative, a network that aims to empower young people globally to create sustainable solutions through education, community work, and innovation. At FDSN Youth, I assist a specific project called Global Schools, and this project aims at integrating the Sustainable Development Goals in school settings worldwide through advocacy and research initiatives. I am looking forward to the discussion in this panel.
To all of you to be here, and I'm sure this conversation will be great with a lot of rich inputs from all of you. So now I would like to ask a first question to you, Minyoung, and then Daniel, if you would like to answer this one. What are students already doing to build a sustainable world? According to your experience, for example, what can you tell us about this? Minyoung, please.
Well, that's a very good question, Clementine. And before I answer that, I think I just want to go over who students are. I think students are unique stakeholders who have creativity, innovative ideas, passion, and a great understanding of how to encourage youth into taking interest in sustainability and developing the value. So students in South Korea have been implementing diverse ways to voice out their values. And recently I've seen that the most significant method is startups. So universities in Korea have been focusing and funding on growing startups where it's really become the hub for students to come together with the same goal and initiative of sustainability and make things happen. So I see a growing trend of startups that focus on building a sustainable community. And most importantly, students do it in a fun way to maximize engagement and user experience. For example, in my university, there is a startup called Leaders of Green Society that created a platform that rewards eco-friendly consumption and daily life patterns. So basically, if you purchase a fashion bag of theirs that has a little QR code caved inside, once you make an eco-friendly consumption, like using the bag instead of buying disposable bags while grocery shopping, you can certify your green act through the QR code to gain access to a variety of benefits, prizes, and take part in the environmental campaign. I think fun is a unique contribution students can make because they better understand than anyone how to catch the youth attention and really put consumer engagement as a big part of their business cycle. So a lot of students are already well aware of the importance of creating a sustainable world, and the impact of their startups or projects have already made so much progress. I think they are on the right track and they know where to stand in terms of making the transition to the sustainable world.
Thank you so much. Anything to add on that point that Minyoung mentioned, Daniel?
Not specifically to Minyoung's part, but I can give also an example from my side. My work at SDSNU, for example, as a volunteer. First of all, just to explain what SDSNU is a network composed of young volunteers. Many of them are students from different parts of the world working on programs developed and managed by them. One of these programs is the one I volunteer at, called the Global Schools Program. And it started out as an advocacy project, trying to engage schools, teachers, and students worldwide to have the concepts and values present in the SDGs embedded in their lives and pushing them to become real change makers. The program evolved so much since 2007 when it started, and so quickly that now we are also partnering with universities in some countries, running pilot projects aiming at effectively integrating the SDGs in national school curricula in a nationwide way. To give you an idea of our outreach capacity, we have managed in just 3 years to engage with more than 40,000 teachers and more than 800,000 students in more than 70 different countries. Within SDSN Youth, there are also other programs, such as the SDG Students Program, that are semi-virtual, semi-physical community hubs of learning and local action that educate university students about the SDGs. And there's also the Local Pathways Program, which provides young urban innovators with tools to design and implement solutions to find local pathways to sustainable development. And there are other initiatives and networking activities that the organization provides that I won't be able to list them all here. I would just like to highlight one specific solution as well, which is called the Youth Solutions Report. It highlights a series of youth-led innovations developed worldwide. So I guess it brings a lot of good examples of what students and the youth mainly is doing about sustainability worldwide. There are many youth-led initiatives, I guess, and young people involved in sustainability-related projects that are doing amazing things. I know some in Brazil, for example, and when you look at kids who recently became worldwide known activists, such as Greta Thunberg or Vanessa Nakate, I guess it's amazing to see what young people can do about sustainability.
Thank you so much. I think those points are very complementary. A lot of ideas and tools here that everyone can already use, and maybe you can share some of those in the chat as well for everyone to have a look at those. Thanks a lot. we have another question to ask you here, to you in this panel, is also, what do students want out of their education and their universities? I think it's a very important question to ask ourselves as students, but also to share the answer with all the other stakeholders in the field of higher education. So if Shivani and then Minyoung would like to answer that question, maybe.
Thanks, Clementine. I think that's a really valuable question. And I think historically, universities have always looked at what they can gain from the students in terms of their own growth. But I think for once, we're actually looking to see how universities can serve the students specifically. And I'm really glad to be able to be one of those students to vocalize my voice. So I created kind of a 6-pointer. And I think all of these points are really valuable and pertinent, especially in today's context. So I'm going to start with the first one, which I believe is, I think there should be a huge huge focus on values and values-based leadership. Specifically because we can learn things like accounting and math on YouTube now. You know, we don't go to universities to learn those basic things, but it's more about having those vital spaces and interactions with our cohorts in our classrooms that we can learn from each other. And especially part of my experience within our M.B.A, we have a whole course dedicated to personal leadership and advanced leadership, and then organizational leadership, where we talk about how we can be effective leaders. So I think that should be a big part of education. The next one I want to talk about is practical education on topics that are relevant to today and now. So I think having pre-organized agendas are no longer relevant in this day and age, which brings me to my third point, which is flexibility. I think the age of the classroom and the age of the monitor tests are far gone. I think students want to be able to study anywhere, anyhow. They want implemented learnings. They don't want theoretical learnings. They want to be able to do case studies. They want to be able to learn in real time. And finally, I think academic rigor is so last century. Students are craving agility. Students want to complete assignments in multimedia formats. We don't want to reference anymore, but we want to be able to paint, make a board game if we want, do whatever we can to express ourselves and express our understanding of the assignment, not just through academic papers. Which brings me to my fourth point, and that is academia dominated by the global Northwest is super exhausting, and I think it's becoming increasingly irrelevant. I feel that more case studies should be leaning towards emerging markets and bottom of the pyramid learnings, innovative and unconventional global approaches. With that, I'm going to close with saying that I think big data ethics should be also a big fundamental course in all degrees. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very interesting points. A lot to say here. Can't wait to hear what also, Minyoung, you have to say on that question.
Well, I think I'm going to go
You're
with...
muted. Give me a second.
Oh, sorry.
You can start again.
Okay. Well, I think essentially there's two main things students want from education. The first is increased accessibility. Currently, there's a very big time lag between the demands that students have from the global society and the education courses of responsible management that is reflected. There is little course. And even if there are courses, they don't dive deep enough to really tell the students about how they can practice this in the community and in the international society. The world is changing so quickly. Business models are shifting, fast technology advancement is taking place, and definitely COVID-19 has changed our lives where inequalities are intensified, we face greater environmental challenges, and there's a health crisis. It's more than important now that we have access to these education to become more innovative and learn to create an impact. Also, I think responsible management is not something that only business school students should have access to. In an interdisciplinary world like today, a sustainable lens to management to those studying in any major, whether it's engineering, computer science, or French language and literature like me, need to have these access. So we need to open more classes and expand the outreach. Second, we want quality content. What we want is practical experience. Most of the time, students are already filled with great ideas and great intentions to make the world a better place. But simply, we don't know where to start, how to actually put it into practice, and that's why we want the education. We want more engagement from the global society through case studies, implementation of action component and community, and a more collaborative effort with businesses, NGOs, and especially the prime community. Also, it's not just about management. We want more insight, like Shivani said, in digital technologies, green energies, and a basic understanding of these innovative solutions, so that it's not just about policy design management, but rather knowing the background knowledge, because we can't address the root causes without knowing it.
Thanks a lot. I think this is really great. We've heard a lot of about what students are now doing to build a sustainable world. We also heard some examples of what we want out of our education, and it sets the bar quite high, and we need to reach it, and we need to collaborate to go there. There is another question that I would like to put here, which is linked. How can Prime and students collaborate together to embed sustainability into education, and then prepare the students to be fully equipped to make the decade of action a success? So maybe on that question, which is very much related to what has been said before, we could hear Daniel and then Shivani.
Okay, well, I think that Prime, with its global outreach and also its influential network, could give voice to many students and student organizations who are trying to foster critical discussions and debates about how economics and business administration are being taught worldwide. When you look at economics courses, even in renowned institutions, seldomly you will find mandatory courses talking about sustainability matters, and you will see that mainstream approaches about the absolute need of economic growth are quite widespread, and none of them are contested. Furthermore, a lot of business schools have long trained their students to only maximize shareholder value. There are only elective disciplines that approach the necessary methods to lead businesses committed to social or environmental missions, for example. In both of the cases, the students who choose to take these specific courses and disciplines are generally the ones that are already aware of problems related to these topics. I guess that Prime should then strive to listen to students and youth organizations and young leaders who are already innovating in the sustainability field, or who advocate to change the ways these subjects are being taught, to try to co-create solutions and integrate new ways of teaching and shaping the education that the critical mass of administrations and economists will receive, because they will be the leaders of the future. To my mind, the aim of a partnership between Prime and students should be making sustainability so embedded in the regular curricula that whoever does not approach this subject is neglected by the job market. What we need is a behavioral change, and youth is overwhelmingly more prone to address these issues because they will have to face them in the future than the more senior population. So I guess it is imperative that any attempt to reform or reshape university environments must be a collaborative process that involves students and also university managers. On the other side of the stream, I believe that the students who are not organized should be ready to do so, either participating in an already existing initiative or creating one that represents their values, because without association, collective engagement, and teamwork, there's no way to solve the problems we are facing during this century.
Thank you, Daniel, and co-creation and new ways of teaching, among all the other points you made, are really important and key, and in terms of what we can start with to collaborate together. Shivani, do you want to go next?
Clementine, Daniel, those are all excellent points. I want to start with one really simple request from Prime, and which is embed yourself in every fiber of the student's journey from the very beginning, be it from orientation. So this is something that we talked about together, I think, before when we were prepping for the conferences. A lot of students don't even know who Prime is, and that needs to change because you have such an important mandate. And if you're not holding students' hand the entire step of the way, you cannot accomplish the goals you've set out to. So how do we accomplish this, right? So I thought about things that Prime can do that are in line with Prime's 6 primary values to ensure that students get to know them better and they can collaborate towards achieving this decade of change. So the first is, I think Prime needs to fund a Prime club or a student-led organization in conjunction with the universities at which it's partnered with. The first of which is going to be purpose, values, and partnership all into one, is collaborate with the universities and professors to bring in guest speakers from the United Nations Global Compact or local business leaders who are leading with purpose and building inclusive and sustainable global economies. Create incubators or fund graduate school incubators for young minds to create social enterprises and contribute towards this decade of change. Next, when you think of method and research, which are the two other values, I believe that Prime should be funding teaching case studies that are written around SDGs. They should also be connecting global academics and business students or any other students during their dissertations with relevant professors who can help them conceptualize the empirical research that Prime wants to fund. And finally, the last value, which is dialogue. Create those spaces within these universities and fund and sponsor student-led conferences. For example, at the GSB, we have a 100% student-run conference called Women in Business. This year we ran it, and it was our largest conference with 300 leaders from around South Africa who came to attend and engage on issues around women in business. So fund some of those, sponsor those, and really help students create those environments. In closing, two other points. I know Prime hosts the Innovation Challenge. I would urge you to cast that net wider and possibly fund teams to be able to attend this challenge, because a lot of people don't understand funding can be a huge constraint for students to take part in a lot of these challenges. And finally, I know you have many conferences, but I think now is the time for Prime and African Perspective Global Forum, because by 2050, half of the world's population is going to be African. So start gearing your conversations towards Africa. And with that, I'll leave it over to Clementine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very important to be extremely inclusive in our approach on bringing all the community together to design the best tools and the best way to move forward in terms of bringing a management education that is ahead of time for students to be well equipped, and that needs to be done all together by sharing experiences from all over the world and get those knowledge everywhere for everyone to have already this in mind as a student, and then later on for their own career and also personal life, because students are building themselves during those years. Let's not forget that, and it's a key also moment for adult life, as it sets the basics. So the responsibility of the institutions, the higher education institutions is really, really important, even personally, to have great citizens here. So we have some questions from the audience, and I will put them in here to the discussion, and from here you will whoever wants to pick it up, just unmute yourself and answer the question. So we got the question, what do the students plan to do after their studies? Do they feel that they have to choose a job where they have to choose passion against financial security? And I think it's a very interesting question that we are also asking ourselves, I guess, but maybe someone can takes over and answer that question. Go ahead, Shivani.
Thank you so much. I think that's such a great question. And I found myself at this crossroads personally when I finished my MBA in January of this year. So I think now more than ever, we're so lucky that millennials have kind of carved out there's no, you have to have values in the job that you take on. Like, your values need to align with the role that you take on. And now more than ever, more and more companies understand that that's what graduating students want. So many companies are creating those spaces where students now don't have to choose between financial security and values, that they can align both of them. So short answer is yes, I think to students today, values are far more important than financial security, but maybe also I think now they don't have to choose as much as perhaps they had to do in any other phase in history. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wants to add on that point, how you feel yourself?
Maybe I can go for it. It's a bit of different times with this COVID pandemic, and I guess the job market now in the next 5 years will be a bit different from what it looks like right now. And I guess this makes us young people a bit scared about the opportunity, the lack of opportunity that this might cause for us with slowing down the economy in the whole world. So I guess the financial aspect is still important, but I think this is an opportunity so that the next jobs that will be created are even more worried about the values that we, the youth, want to defend. So I guess this crisis is also a chance to build different jobs, and that the jobs strive for the causes that we need to address to solve the challenges of this century.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Yes? I don't know. Wait. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, as a senior and as having the last semester of my bachelor's degree, I am having the same problem. I am going through the same difficulties. And I think I think you cannot choose anything over value when it comes to your work, because I think, as Shivani said, we are in a society where we can actually create our own jobs. There's more jobs that's being integrated with your values, and there's startups, there's a lot of accelerator programs, and I think you don't need to choose between them, but if you do, I think value should come first, and then the economic or financial aspects will follow if you have the competency and if you are determined.
Thank you for sharing. This is always the question, but I feel now that with whatever is happening out there, all the different crises that are piling up, slowly there is a convergence of those things, and we don't need to choose so much anymore, because the entire system is, or if it's not changing now, needs to change anyways. So this is something that students will hopefully have less to decide between passion in sustainability and making this change, and then the financial security as well. So in the chat, we also saw that many people want to have more of your tools, Daniel. So I guess whoever has shared tools today, it would be really great to put them in the chat for everyone to have access to them. Share those initiatives. It's very important. And also, there was a question about having a section on the Prime site for the materials, the events, the exchanges, and news. And that is something, that's why we're here today, is to share different ideas and thoughts we have in terms of how students and Prime can really collaborate together to move forward and make the education system embed sustainability at its core. And that could be one step. So more will come very soon. Maybe one last question that we can take is, what are your thoughts on entrepreneurship in large corporations against entrepreneurship in building new businesses? And I think this is also very interesting questions that a lot of students are asking themselves, and you might be part of those students. Who would like to answer that question?
And
yes,
try to go first. I guess when it comes to large or small corporations, or sometimes even working for the government, NGOs, it's all a matter of being the change in that part of the structure. So I guess that entrepreneurship can be done also in large corporations, and I see a lot of large corporations actually acquiring small businesses. So I guess that small businesses and big businesses, they all have to provide a new framework for making profit, for having a social, environmental, and economic mission that is in accordance with the planetary boundaries. So I guess every new business from this century should think about this before becoming a business. And the businesses that are already been there for maybe 10, 50, or 100 years, they have to rethink themselves and try to find new ways of producing or providing goods and services that are aligned with the boundaries that we have on the planet. Currently, there's no planet B, there's no other options. So if we keep going this way, I guess it's unsustainable. But in every sector, I guess that you can be the change that you want to see in the world somehow.
Thank you. That resonates a lot with what has been said during the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit. And I remember someone saying, well, there is like no one can live on a dead planet. So everyone has to move now, because that's where we're going towards to, and we need to go away from that scenario, right? So the changes need to happen at all levels, and within and outside. So I think yeah, that's quite important. Anyone else wants to say one last comment about this question, and then we move on to final statements of all of you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Clementine. So I'm shamelessly punting my university, but we had a great year, and we actually have a social innovation and entrepreneurship course led by Warren Nielsen, and you can watch his TEDx talk on YouTube. He's awesome. And we had a whole section dedicated to this debate, actually, whether from a social entrepreneurship standpoint, which is more effective. So you have to weigh up what you want to accomplish. From a social entrepreneurship standpoint, while you might be able to impact a lot of people if you're in a big organization, you're also going to butt heads with bureaucracy for a long time, right? So you have a lot of red tape to overcome to implement programs within your organization. However, once you've overcome them, you can impact a lot more people. However, with social entrepreneurship, you're starting really small, and if you don't get traction, you may not impact a lot of people. However, you can make a lot of changes very quickly and be agile and impact the kind of change you hope to. So it's just the kind of toss-up that you're willing to take up personally and make those moves.
Thank you. Great additions here to the answer that Daniel provided. So now I would like to close the session with some final statements, a key message you would like to deliver here out there to Prime, to the audience here. What would you like to share with all of us now? So let's start with you, Shivani, if you would like to do so.
Okay, thanks, Clementine. So I know Dana and Minyoung have already done this, but again, thank you so much, Oikos and Prime, for letting us come here. The quote, I know it's very cheesy, but Rosalind Carter said, "A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be." This resonated with me so much because I think all of us, like institutionally, personally, we really need to think about this quote and action it. I know it's super easy to be comfortable, like it feels good. I'll start taking public transport next week. I'll stop eating meat next year. I'll hire more diverse people when they legislate me to do it, or I'll cut my emissions when I can afford to do it. However, honestly, being comfortable is just no longer an option. Be a great leader, like for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your students, for your organization, and make those tough decisions. Be uncomfortable, because like Daniel said, there's no planet B. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Daniel Minyoung. Thank you, Clement.
Thank you so much for all and your great ideas you put in here, and we will take over also to build a stronger partnership between students and Prime Network, etc. So thanks a lot for all your inputs today. Minyoung, would you like to also say a final statement from your side?
Of course. So I just have a final message to two major stakeholders. First, the Prime signatories. I want you to reflect on why you joined the Prime initiative in the first place. Was it just for the brand, or is it because you really want to provide responsible education to the students and educate them to be at the forefront of sustainability and business progress? If it's the latter, you need to step up more and make bigger changes. In terms of courses, we need better course access, more quality, and better engagement, maximization of engagement with Prime. We need a better platform for student discussion. We need a platform where students can actually materialize their values and their ideas and put it into practice. And also, it's very important not to overlook undergraduates and younger students, because they, in an early age, are already developing and having a critical eye to looking at sustainability. And for students, I understand that our age is a period of uncertainty where careers, studies, values, our life in general is in an unclear stage. And especially with the impact of COVID-19, it's very it might be easy for us to just ignore the difficult, complicated responsibility, but we need to look at the bigger picture. It's the decade of action. We need to make a bigger voice and demand change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you brought to this panel discussion. Very inspiring. Daniel, would you like to also say a few words?
Yes, definitely. As Shivani did, I will also start with a quote. My final message is regarding one of the mottos of the SDGs that says, "No one should be left behind and no human right ignored." So I guess when we think about sustainability, we must think about not only environmental issues, but also social and cultural issues. Today, what we see in the global scenario is a pandemic that is probably caused by us going too further in the biodiversity living and disturbing this environment. And on the other side, we also see a social turmoil triggered by the death of George Floyd, by the killing of George Floyd, that was done because of years and years of widening inequalities and oppression. Taking this scenario into consideration, I believe the university should be a diverse place where people from all sorts of backgrounds can come together to produce knowledge that positively impacts society. Changes need to be made to better tackle these global dilemmas that we are seeing just in front of us. And students must sit on the table to discuss these necessary reforms when they are being discussed. Finally, I want to highlight the importance of different territories each of one of us lives in, and say that there's no one-fits-all solution for the current global problems, and we must value local knowledge and cultural aspects when we are proposing changes to education worldwide. We must for sure learn from one another, build international networks for the exchange of ideas, but we have to bear in mind the specificities of local populations and places, I guess. Therefore, it's my opinion that universities should be of open access to everybody and should also interact more with people from outside of academia, encouraging grassroots and locally developed innovations. Thank you, Clementine, Shivani, and Minyoung, for the participation on this panel.
Thank you so much to all of you. And thank you, Daniel. So yes, today I will close this session with by saying that today we got to know more about what students are already doing to build a sustainable world, what students want out of their education, and how can prime students collaborate, because we clearly see the need for all stakeholders in the field of higher education, including students, to collaborate hands in hands. It has been said several times during this session. So students can be and feel equipped when finishing their studies and are ready to make this systemic change that our society needs. The business schools need to be the role models and embed this collaborative, innovative, solution-oriented and bold mindset that they need to transmit to the students, so we can keep up with the goals set for the decade of action. So what I would like to say is that students are already involved in many international and local initiatives, such as the carbon literacy training, the positive impact rating, the global climate letter, among many others. And now we are calling for you students to help us find and design the best ways of collaborating with Prime at any level, be it local, regional, international, to move forward and embed sustainability in our education. Please join us in this collective journey by approaching us at oikos International. We can do more, we can do better, so let's really do it together. And thank you, Prime, for giving the students this platform to share our thoughts and perspective throughout the Global Forum. And I wish everyone a good day or a good evening and to enjoy the rest of the Prime Global session. Now the other session is starting on the plenary. Thank you very much to all the panelists.